This is like a video of a chef showing kids how they make chicken nuggets, but there's overlays of like, all right, this is a UFC contract. These are UFC fighters. These are this and that. So check it out. It's pretty funny.
Some of the processed foods that you love are made from the bits you don't like. Bone, all the connective tissues, little bits of bone marrow and stuff like that. They even add chicken skin.
Yes.
Put a load of chicken skin in here as well.
That looks like shit.
Stuff in it, you know, flavoring in there to make it taste of something nice instead of something horrible. We can get a cutter and cut out our very own patty, just like that. Put some breadcrumbs on it, and there you go, ladies and gentlemen, our very own
performance bonuses.
Now, let's eat this.
10K.
Who wants some? Everybody raises their hand. Look at his face, bro.
Great.
So essentially in this video, guys, like this guy's showing the crap that is made up of, that makes up chicken nuggets, and he's comparing it. Whoever made this video is comparing the crap to UFC business contracts and all that. And at the end of the day, even though they're still awful, everyone raises their hand and still wants to participate. So it's almost like they're stuck, dude. Like, do you want to fight in the best league against the best fighters, or do you want to go get paid?
But I think at the same time, like when you think about UFC, these guys that they go to UFC, become champions there, I mean, they really, I mean, other than their contracts for while they're fighting, but when they leave the UFC, I feel like they're so much more well known, they got so many more opportunities for when they're out and they have their gym and they have their name and all that other stuff that I feel like they don't really get that from the other leagues that maybe pay a little bit more. You guys agree or no?
I mean, it depends on who you are, man, because not everybody gets that same deal. You know what I mean? Like, you get people who just don't. Like, you had some awesome champs that just never. Like,
look at Demetrius. They never gave a shit about Demetrius, and he's the GOAT of UFC, bro.
Yeah. Right, but I think
a little bit of both. Like UFC has this is kind of like, to me, this is an equal partnership. Like, the UFC provides a platform for them to show their skills, but then the UFC wouldn't be as big as it is if they like. Are you watching UFC because it's UFC? Or are you watching UFC because of the fighters? You're watching because of the fighters, like.
Right, but I also know that if I watch UFC, I feel like I'm gonna get the best fighters. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's for reals or not. But you see these fighters are like they're in these other leagues doing great and everything, but they're all like, oh, I still want to go to the UFC. I still, like you said with those guys, the little kids with the chicken nuggets. Oh, I know, I'm better off here. This is better, but I want to be the UFC champion.
Yeah.
So. In the same,
that part is true, man. It's the big leagues. It's the big leagues of MMA versus your hometown league. You know what I mean? Like your farm league or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Like, so it is a big show. So it makes sense, that people want to go there, and that's the reason people watch. But at the same time, I just don't. I think it's more one-sided.
Most definitely. That's why this all is coming out.
Right. Than for the fighters. Like, it's.
I mean,
they're not reciprocating the way it should be, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that happens in a lot of things. I mean, doesn't that happen with like colleges and stuff like that too? I mean, you got like you can go to medical school at UCLA or Harvard or something like that, but the human body's not changing. You can go to some medical school and some other college, whatever. And you're gonna learn the same procedures, the same basic medical techniques and everything. The body's not changing, but you graduated from Harvard. Oh yeah, we'll take you.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, the name. So I feel like that happens in a lot of things. Not just the UFC, but
I think so. But you know what I mean. But if you're a hardcore like us, like who the real ones are. Like you're gonna tune in to watch the badass mother effers, whether it's UFC, One Championship, Bellator, you know what I mean? Like even PFL's got some bangers, guys. Like last week's PFL show was sick. I haven't even gone through all of it. There are like 9 fights, and it took like barely 2 hours, dude. So they were like blasting through them because they were just getting finish after finish after finish. But to backtrack, me and Fonzo were talking about this lawsuit last week, and we were saying like it sounds like it's going to take a long time for stuff to come out, but I don't think so, dude.
I was going to say now it seems like it's speeding up.
They're speeding up. They're talking about maybe like January, February, and before then they're going to start unleashing, opening up emails, text messages, all kinds of stuff, and it is not looking good for UFC. They are panicking right now, bro.
So I mean, so with all the for all the people that didn't hear, with all the people that didn't come out or didn't hear your guys' episode last week, you want to talk over what the lawsuit is or what it's addressing?
This is for like the fighters back like during a certain era. If you fought for the UFC and you were like, so what's going to end up coming out with these emails is they're saying that the managers of these fighters were working with the UFC to make deals for the UFC instead of helping their own fighters. So they were like Don King. Yeah, they were just like steamwalling him, like, "Hey, man, this is just take this deal. This is a good deal," and blah blah blah.
And then like just like other stuff that we know happens, like high pressure tactics to force fighters to take a fight,
fighters,
you know what I mean, that they're not ready for or want to necessarily take. Kind of bullying him to sign a new contract, and just stuff like that. You know what I mean, and not just the stuff that Ngannou was talking about as well. You know what I mean, like the not being exclusive or being exclusive to UFC, but also being what is it called, subcontractor.
Yeah,
like employees, you know what I mean, like so like they're treated like
independent contractors.
Independent contractors. There you go. So like it's like both. Like I don't get any benefits as of an employee,
but the UFC does.
But then UFC does, right? Then I'm not exclusive. I have to be exclusive to you. I can't just go and fight anywhere else. Yeah. So it's just all that stuff. So it's all part of that lawsuit. The significant part is that it's class action, meaning that like it applies to every fighter that was active during that era automatically. So this is like hundreds of fighters that are included in this lawsuit. People can opt out, but they're automatically opted in, which means that it makes it a bigger lawsuit, and a lot more can come from it versus just one person, suing the UFC.
Oh wow!
Yep, and it was funny. It's super. You made a really good point earlier, because when you said like, "Hey, are these guys known because they're fighting in the UFC, or are they known because they're good fighters?" You know what I mean? Like,
right?
Do you think that Conor McGregor's whiskey took off because it tasted good, or because it was Conor McGregor, or because Conor McGregor fought in the UFC?
I think it was because Conor McGregor fought in the UFC. Because Conor McGregor could have been a great fighter somewhere else, and less people, only like the real people that follow like MMA are really gonna know who that guy is, and then know like, oh, I want his drink.
Look, I think it's kind of hard to tell, man. It's one of those like chicken or egg type of a deal. Just because, look, Conor McGregor got to where he's because of the UFC and because he's Conor McGregor.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like
it's a little bit of both, dude.
The UFC doesn't
shitload of eyes to the UFC, right? Yeah, he was knocking. I mean, on those little shows that when nobody knew who Dustin Poirier was, when no one who knew, I mean, people still don't know who Dennis Seaver is. Dude, there's better fighters in Bellator, so Conor could have made better highlight reels against other fighters and possibly could have made a name for himself still. You know what I mean? If you talk loud enough, the eyes and ears, everyone's going to tune in. Everyone wants to see a guy get his ass whooped. And that's what was basically happening with Conor, But ever since Conor made his whiskey and cashed out like that, the UFC was like, they were kind of thinking like Cousin Ed. And they're like, hey, wait a minute. We're letting this money. We're letting this money go right through our hands. So check this out. So they changed this clause in fighters' deals where now this is almost like WWE tactics, dude. This is kind of super fucked up where they're like, hey, but it makes more sense in WWE because in WWE you're a character that the WWE created. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're curated, right? You're a
Dwayne Johnson is
right.
The Rock, but The Rock was created by WWE writers, even though he is the persona of The Rock. So I kind of get that. But Conor McGregor is Conor McGregor. Like, how can the UFC take something that's his, even though he made his name with them? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That's
but
like,
I mean, isn't that kind of the same thing as like they do like at the like I know they do it with like the government, like in the government, especially like you were saying, independent contractors, but where like you could be on the job and let's say I'm using like I'm issued some kind of equipment, some kind of gear, and I'm like, you know what, this thing doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for real life. And I alter it and I change something, and I'm like, you know what, this is gonna work. This works. And I start using it, and then my buddies start using it, and then I eventually like, all right, I'm gonna start selling it. That's actually in the contracts where they own the rights to it because you worked for them when you developed whatever you developed, that belongs to them. And they own the rights, they own everything from it. They get all the proceeds.
I could totally see that.
Here's the deal, but you're talking about equipment, right? You're talking about equipment that was issued to you.
No. I'm saying like
this article
you get something and you're just saying this doesn't work, and then you create something, you build something, design it, build it, put it together. It's going to do the same job as whatever that thing was that you got issued, but it's your own design, it's your own thing, you know. It's your own idea, and you put it together, you made the blueprint, you made all that, and then you build it and you start using it. That whoever company that you work for, they own it. And you sign that in your contract.
I'm sure there's some companies that have that built into their contracts where if you create something while you work for them, especially that I know that goes for like a lot of coders, people in the tech industry. If you create something while you're working for them, that shit's theirs, bro. But this, I think this is a
department was like that as well.
Where it's like, dude,
that's BS.
Conor
man.
McGregor.
I'm gonna call Uncle Dan and Uncle Joaco. They're gonna help me out with this.
That's a good idea. We should totally hook that up. We need a 40s with friends for sure. But like to me, this is like, okay, so Conor McGregor, yeah, he made his name in the UFC, but now he's selling this whiskey, and the whiskey doesn't have anything to do with UFC. Like, it's not even fighter related. So how can they stick their hands on that? To me, like that's just being greedy. That's overstepping their boundaries, and more so the fact this deals, you know, I don't know if the antitrust lawsuit has anything to do with this, but someone's got to do something about this because that's horrible, dude. Like, well, I wonder what would to happen if a fighter were to leave the UFC. Like, Francis Ngannou's gone. You know, like Cousin Ed says, he's not gonna fight the caliber of fighters that he was able to fight in the UFC, right? Cuz like, we're never gonna see a Francis versus John Jones. That would break the pay-per-view records for sure. So he's gonna fight these scrubs, but he's still Francis. And 5 years from now, 3 years from now, whenever he retires, and then he opens up a hamburger chain. Like, does the UFC get a piece of that?
Well, I don't know.
I would think no. I would think
that's in his contract. He doesn't have a contract. So
no, he doesn't. But other fighters, I'm saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, how many years have to pass before you can create something and then make money off of it? But then you're losing time because as time passes, people forget about you, you know? So you're not going to be as popular as you were when you were fighting. So
or even if they don't forget about you, they're just like, whatever happened to him? Like, even Francis Ngannou, like, I haven't heard from him since that last ordeal where he wanted like money from the UFC fighters, and there was a possibility of him going to another fight league. I haven't heard anything.
We'll be hearing about him pretty soon. He's going to be boxing pretty soon, so we'll see him. He's going to be boxing Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we'll hear about him pretty soon.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So this is just a little like